dedicated yourself to to your professional development even on a Sunday. Hello po, good morning po sa lahat ng ating participants. I can see familiar faces. Hi po, Sir Joselito. Okay, Ma'am Geraldine, Sir Christian, we have Ma'am Mary Jean, and Ma'am Lane is also with us again today. Thank you very much. Good morning, Sir Christian, and we are around six. There are six participants, I believe, today. Okay, kahit na Sunday na Sunday po, you are on a training, you are on a webinar. Okay. So today, this number is really good because we might be able to have a great sharing on the topic that you have enrolled in, the empathy and social impacts. This has something to do not only by you as a professional, but you largely as a person. Ito talaga, and I hope that everyone will be sharing their points, their points of view on different issues, because we are going to talk about the society and our responses to social issues that are happening now. As time goes by and as the earth progresses, as our society is developing, maraming bagay din yung nagkakaroon ng problema. Especially that these days, the technology era or the technological advantages also go along with disadvantages sa values ng mga bata, kahit na nadidisiplina na sila sa bahay, but still largely there is a huge impact on the peer pressure and the social media influence sa kanila and sa atin din as a person. Sometimes hindi lang natin napapansin. All right. Now, that's why this topic is very interesting, especially that psychology is also one of my most favorite subjects, and I have immersed myself on a lot of psychology books kasi interested ako to study the human nature, the human psychological processes, and a lot more. So let's find out. For today, we are going to, of course, be oriented with the rules. Please turn on your camera for the first 20 minutes of the training for attendance purposes. Please wear proper clothing, since the session will be recorded for quality and management purposes. Please be attentive and be interactive during the discussion. And since this topic is quite not really sensitive, but this topic might be sensitive depending on your responses, depending on how you perceive things. So let's just respect everyone. I hope that from the beginning until the end of this webinar or this training, we're gonna have a very sound and an atmosphere of respect. Okay. So again, on behalf of your STCS family, by the way, before I forget, I'd like to thank you all for always choosing Stellar Training Consultancy Services as your training provider. Maraming salamat po. And for today, we're going to have these learning outcomes. Participants will be able to learn the meaning and importance of empathy. All right. By the way, how many of you here know about empathy? Ano yung unang pumapasok sa atin, sa isip natin on hearing or encountering the word empathy? Ano po kaya yung, we can have one word, please type in the chat box. Ano yung bagay or ano yung word, phrase, or sentence that comes to our mind when we come across the term empathy? Putting yourself in the shoe of the others. Thank you so much, Sir Christian. What about the others? Emotion. Yes, understanding other people. Compassion. Exactly. So all these words, all the words that you have responded here in the chat box. Oh, we have here. Akala ko isang tao lang ito, si Sir Christian Amor and Sir Christian Kit. we have two Christians here in the Christian's name in the loop. Thank you po. Okay, so later on, if I'll be asking you to read, I have to say Christian Kit or Sir Christian Amor. All right, compassion, understanding other people. Exactly. All of these words, all of these descriptions or features have something to do with the word empathy. But the most common definition or the most common feature or description of empathy that we know, if you ask most people, they would say putting oneself in the shoe of the others. All right, behavior, yes. Okay. Also, you will be able to know how to develop empathy towards other people and how to make their empathy effective. You will be able to make your empathy effective rather. You will be able to distinguish definition of empathy in arts and in science. Okay, so we have this interdisciplinary process when it comes to empathy. Interdisciplinary incorporation or integration. You will be able to understand the empathy continuum and how negative or positive empathy affects one's decision. And you will be able to understand thoroughly the definition of each emotional responses. Okay? So later on, kasi pag sinabi nating putting oneself in the shoes of the others, we might be on the positive note or the negative note. That's what a lot of people have neglected to understand. When we put ourselves into the shoes of the others, we might be sailing on the positive direction or a negative direction. So that's why we will be learning and we will be discussing thoroughly what is the empathy continuum. Okay, so without further ado, let's have knowledge check. How good are you with empathy? You rate yourself 1 to 10. How good are you with empathy? Gaano kaya tayo. All right, wait a moment. Let me just turn off the audio so that you can focus on assessing yourself whether you are good at this or not. Okay, I'll be reading some responses. 8, 9. We have Mom Lay 9, Mom Geraldine 8. Okay. So please keep your 8.8. Grabe si Sir Joselito. Very specific. 8.8. Thank you, sir. Yes. How about the others? How are we empathetic? Our exercise of empathy. All right. Do I only have 3 participants? What about the rest? 7. So Christian said 7. Yes, there's nothing wrong or there's no wrong in your responses because it is our self-evaluation. No one can ever question you on that. Okay. So maraming salamat po. Please keep your responses coming. How how are you? How good are you with empathy? Next question. How important is empathy for you? Yes, how important is empathy for you? Gaano po kahalaga empathy? Okay, Sir Joselito responded first with 10. Yes, definitely. It's very important for us. How about the others? It's 10. Yeah, I think all of us would be responding 10. But of course, if you respond 9 or 8, it's fine. It's totally fine because we have our own set of values and we have our own set um of priorities. Okay. Thank you very much for the responses. It's really very important. But I'd like to ask during this part, siguro, um, I'm not sure if Mom Lane can already respond or can already unmute her microphone. But if not, Sir Ma'am Lane, it's fine. Nakita kasi kita kanina na kumuha ng headset. We might be testing that right now. But it's okay if hindi pa rin po. No problem, Ma'am Lane. Sige, we'll just check that later. Okay, so how important is empathy? Sir, what about Sir Joselito? bakit importante sa atin or sa inyo ang empathy? You may unmute your microphone, Sir Silito.
Well, I am dealing with a lot of workers
Okay.
who are not college graduates. They are
Yeah,
ordinary workers.
I
So I
see.
have to treat them properly. So we have
Mm.
this mutual employee-employer relation.
Okay, thank you so much, Sir Rosalita. That's right. It's very important, especially if our workplace, if our position would largely or hugely um require that from us, right? Minsan kasi pag masyado na tayong malayo sa posisyon, masyado na tayong mataas sa posisyon, nakakalimutan natin that we came from the lower position. We came from that ground where our employees or our subordinates are in right now, no? So minsan nakakalimutan natin. That's why as we progresses as we progress our profession, our position, we should not really forget to be empathetic or to have this empathy so that we would never forget our ground. We would never forget where we came from. Okay. Yeah, that's why we're always reminded to always set your foot on the ground while you are soaring up high. Very important so we can respond appropriately to whatever concerns we may encounter. Exactly. Especially if the situations call for different perspectives, for different viewpoints, no? So importante na ilagay natin pag there are two conflicting ideas or there are two conflicting parties, we do not judge, but because of empathy we're able to weigh things well. You put yourself onto the shoes of the party A, and you put yourself to the shoes of party B. So para good ang ating judgment and good ang ating responses. All right. So let's have the introduction. What is empathy? I'll be asking if Ma'am Lane wala pa rin, no? I think.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's okay. I
Why
can
not?
hear. Yeah. That's right. Okay.
Introduction to empathy and social impact. What is empathy? Empathy is action of understanding and being aware of another person's feelings and emotions. Simply put, empathy is the ability to step into someone else's shoes and to feel and understand their needs.
Thank you, Ma'am Lane. Finally, we have heard your voice already. Congratulations. All right. So,
Thank you, sir.
yes, that's empathy. Like what you have said, all of your responses a while ago were correct. We had understanding. You said putting yourself into the shoes of the others. And you said behavior. Yes, it's being aware of another's feelings and emotions, and it's the ability to step into someone else's shoes. So because remember that our values, our judgments, our perspectives, they come out as actions. They come out as our behaviors, right? Okay. So simply is just the ability to step into someone else's shoes and to feel and understand their needs. Yan yung sabi ko kanina na the most common definition or simple term that would encapsulate everything when we talk about empathy is the last paragraph. The ability to step into someone else's shoes, okay, and to feel and understand their needs. All right. So next, let's go to this video. We are going to watch this first, and please, I hope you can hear it well. Let me just check if I shared the sound. Okay, I did. Okay, so this is about the importance of empathy. Let's watch this video because we're going to discuss things related to this video later.
We all live in our own version of reality, a reality that is limited by our senses, our temperament, and our own experiences. It is the only reality we will ever truly know. But it is crucial to our personal development, our relationships, and to society itself that we make the effort to try and experience other people's realities as well. This is done through empathy. Simply stated, empathy is an active attempt to understand another person's perspective, their emotions, and in essence, their reality. We are social animals, and our ability to communicate and understand each other's emotional states is key to maintaining our relationships. So it is little wonder that the ability to empathize is hardwired directly into our brains. One area that assists in this process is the right supramarginal gyrus, which helps us to distinguish our own emotional state from that of another person, and plays a key role in our ability to observe and assess what other people are experiencing. Studies from Neuron Science Journal suggest that we have systems of mirror neurons in our brains that cause us to mimic the actions of others. That is why when we see someone yawn, we will often yawn in reply. And when we observe someone experiencing joy or pain, we experience the same sensation to a certain extent. But these reactions are primarily driven by subconscious reflexes. In order to be truly empathic, you have to actively think beyond yourself and your own concerns. You can develop this empathic skill by practicing some simple habits. Be observant of others. We tend to spend the majority of our day dwelling on ourselves, caught up in our own daily routines and digital distractions. But taking the time to observe others around you is a good first step in developing your empathy. Watch and wonder. Try to focus on the person's state of being rather than categorizing or labeling them. Ask yourself, what kind of day are they having? How are they feeling? Challenge yourself to genuinely care about their well-being. Curiosity about others is the first step to expanding your empathy. Use active listening. During a conversation, especially a heated one, most people formulate their response before the other person even finishes their statement. This form of communication is more verbal combat than an exchange of ideas or opinions. Avoid this reflex by slowing down. Rather than rushing to reply, take a moment to consider the other person's statement. Ask follow-up questions to better understand what the speaker intended. Try to understand their emotional state and the deeper motivations behind their statement. What life experiences led them to their current worldview? Remember, you don't need to share someone's opinion in order to understand it and acknowledge it. And listening will help inform and expand your own opinion. Open up. Learning more about other people's experiences is a key element to seeing the world through someone else's eyes. But it is also important to open up about your own feelings and experiences. Empathy is a two-way street that at best is built upon mutual understanding. Through a combination of uncovering the deeper motivations of someone else's position and expressing our own underlying concerns, we often discover a shared commonality, even with those who hold different beliefs than ours. Through the practice of keeping an open mind, empathy helps us challenge prejudice, find commonality, and expand our moral universe. Without it, we are apt to label people outside our circle as the other, the problem, or the enemy. These labels draw lines in the sand that prevent us from moving forward or growing. It cuts us off from the realization that the human experience is a shared experience. We have much more in common than we think, and are really just seeing small variations of the same reality.
Okay, that's it. Now, I'd like to ask you, you may unmute your microphone if you wish to answer, or you may use the chat box. My question is, what caught you, or what did you learn from that video? What was a significant lesson or point that you want to emphasize, which you have learned in the video? Anyone? You may unmute your microphone or type in the chat box. What is that significant thing? Because there are a lot of significant things. When I happened to watch this video, I think of others too. Okay, thank you, Sir Rosalito. Think of others too. Yes, that's very important. Avoid labeling people. Exactly. We do not label people according to their distinctions or to their whatever descriptions you label them. We should avoid that. And one thing that I have realized myself when I immerse myself with the principle, or with empathy, is that, remember, empathy takes a long process. Empathy, this is the highest kind of ability, from pity to sympathy to empathy. This is kind of a complex ability. You have to really not only understand, but really deeply understand one person. Because when you say sympathy, remember that the most common definition is you put yourself into the shoes of the others, meaning it will take time for you to grasp, it will take time for you to respond. So when you say understand people, we can understand immediately, we can respond immediately. But when you say empathy, the understanding that comes with it takes time. First, is you need to take time to think. You need to take time to judge or to assess or evaluate, because sometimes we put our own judgment, right? Sometimes we become biased in understanding things. So kailangan, let's pause for a while, let's take time. That's why when we put, remember, when we put ourselves into the shoes of the others, when we wear their shoes, it will take us time. I mean, hindi naman agad-agad, seconds lang, you can already wear their shoes. No. That's why, according to there in the video, it was emphasized that empathy is a shared process. It's a two-way process. You will only fully understand someone if you shared your ideas, um, if you shared your experiences. Kaya wag muna tayo agad-agad mag-respond. You let other people share first their experiences, and so hindi agad na, ay, na-experience ko din yan, or blah, ganito, ganyan. Kasi maybe their experiences might be the same with you at first, but if you just let them tell their story, their entire story, it might be different, and you need more understanding on that. So first you listen, because by knowing, you come to understanding. But by better knowing, you come to better understanding, right? Wag lang na first knowledge lang. You have to have the deeper knowledge of his situation or her situation. And that's the only time you can have a better understanding of her or his situation. That's why in the objectives um of, like, on my end as a teacher, in my objectives, it's always knowledge and understanding. To know and to understand. It's one thing to know, but it's another thing to understand. But knowing is prerequisite to understanding, right? You will never understand things if you don't know the entire story. So hindi tayo magko-comment agad. Hindi natin agad sasabihin na, ay, naintindihan kita just because you shared, you have the same story. But remember, their story has a different versions with kinds of people involved, with the situation, and so on, di ba? Although, let's say, pareho kayong namatayan ng alaga. Let's just say alaga. I don't want to have people. Alaga, pareho kayong namatayan ng alaga. You would respond immediately na, ako din, ganun, ganyan. Hindi mo alam, you have to consider first, gaano nyo nakasama yung alaga nyo? Is it the same? Sa'yo ba? Baka sa'yo is only 1 month. Sa kanya pala, years na niyang kasama. So, just by the fact na namatayan siya ng alaga doesn't guarantee that you totally understand what he or she feels. Because the situation or the circumstances are different depending on the details of her situation. Right? So we listen to understand. People just need to feel heard. That's right, Sir Christian Kit. All right. So there are times that all we need to show them, or all we need to use is our listening ears. That's why I like what I always say, our ears are situated over our mouth, because this has a level of first level of priority. Itong ears talaga, makinig muna before tayo magsalita. Now, why is it important to have empathy? A while ago, you have responded some of your experiences or some of your thoughts and feelings, but here we have 6 importance of empathy. First, okay, I'll be asking Sir Ma'am Marie Jean. Ma'am Marie Jean, can you read to us all the 6 importance of empathy? If it's just fine, Ma'am Mary Jean.
Empathy is an important social skill. Empathy encourages us to respect and care for each other. Empathy encourages us to show compassion and understanding. Empathy allows you to better connect with people and
Sorry for the typo, foster relationship.
Empathy builds and fosters relationships. Effective leaders are empathetic.
Okay, empathetic. By the way, if you have heard the term empathic from the video and empathetic here on the slides. They are both the same in Oxford English, so no problems with that. Now, empathy, we have a message here. Empathy in the workplace tend to be more productive because of the high level of understanding. Yes, when you come in good terms because of your level of empathy, when you come in good terms because each one exercises high level of understanding, it leads to better company productivity. Or yeah, so marami talaga kayong na-achieve. Maraming salamat, Ma'am Lane, for sharing your insight, okay, about the importance of empathy in relation to the business process or to your organizational processes. So empathy is an important social skill. It encourages us to respect and care for each other, encourages us to show compassion and understanding. Compassion is when you feel, of course, the compassion has something to do with love, not only because you understand, but because you care to understand, because you feel you have an attachment, you have bond, you have a relationship with that person, a friendly relationship with that person. So that's why you have that compassion. You care because you seriously care. Allows you to better connect with people and foster relationship. It builds and foster relationship, and leaders are effective leaders and empathetic. So we are going to discuss each one thoroughly as we go on. How can we develop and build empathy? So I'd like to ask Sir Christian Amor to please read to us what or how can we develop and build empathy. Take it away, sir.
How can we develop and build empathy?
Sorry, ma'am. It's
There are
ma'am. Ma'am
several
Christian.
approaches that
Okay.
people can take in an effort to help them with the development and building of empathy. Number one, listen to people's feelings. Two, understanding your own emotions. Three, identifying and reading emotions in others. Four, being able to place yourself in other people's shoes. Five, learning about their
Of showing empathy. Okay. Thank you, Ma'am Christian Amor. I just focus on the first name, Christian, but not on the second name, Amor. Amor is more of a female name. So Ma'am Christian Amor. Thank you po. So yeah, that's how we can develop and build empathy. First, una talaga, no? Napaka-importante po talaga. That's why it's a written first here. It's situated first here. Listen to people's feeling. Understanding your own emotions. Why is it important? You understand your own emotions. If this emotion coming from a high level of understanding, or is this emotion coming from an arbitrary judgment? Kumbaga, arbitrary, walang basihan, it's just your own perspective, it's your own value. This judgment is based on your own experiences. Because sometimes you are limited by our experiences. The way we perceive things is just based on our own experiences. Kaya yung sabi ko nga kanina, empathy is really a high level of understanding na kahit hindi mo na-experience personally, you have a better understanding, you feel his or her feelings. Kasi nga, again, it's like a power that everyone it's a power that everyone should acquire and can acquire. Not everyone can acquire. Okay. Identifying and reading emotions in others, being able to place yourself, like, okay, learning about the benefits of showing empathy. So if remember, tayo naman talaga, we work on most of the time we pursue things, or we do some actions where we can benefit from, or which we can benefit from. And if we understand that learning how to be empathetic would entitle you of a lot of benefits, then that might be a motivating factor for us to really practice, really to acquire empathy. So the eyes of another. Okay? The eyes of another. Yung nakita nyo kanina sa video, di ba? Metaphorically, ay yung kanyang eyes ay nilagay niya, or yung kanyang head nilagyan niya ng eyes ng isang tao, ng iba pang tao. So empathy is the art of seeing the world as someone else sees it. It's not just a study. It's not just a psychological study. It's not just more on, kasi kanina we have seen in the video that empathy can be seen in the perspective of in the scientific, it has a scientific explanation, di ba? But more than the scientific explanation, it's an art. Sabi ko nga, it's like a magic. It's like a power that not all people can have. Piling tao, chosen ones. When you have empathy, it means you can understand what a person is feeling in a given moment and understand that his actions made sense to him. Okay, so that's it. It's an art. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful it's a beautiful practice. It's a beautiful art. But we should also not disregard or neglect that it's also a science. Later malalaman natin bakit naging science ang empathy. Okay? And how science can explain why people do not have empathy and why people are not chosen or not able to have empathy. Yan, kahit nagustuhin man nila, anuman ang gawin nila, they could not have empathy because of some conditions, and science can explain that. All right. Here's the empathy continuum that I was talking about. Okay, ito yung empathy continuum. So here on the left side, we have negative actions. On the right side, we have positive actions. Now, these are the values or the characters that would have negative or positive impact. So, first, ignorance. Of course, we don't know, hindi natin alam. And hindi natin alam, so we cannot achieve that kind of level of empathy that we should have achieved. Kasi hindi natin alam, and yun, we are ignorant of the things that are going on. Okay? Kaya minsan, yung iba na nagko-komento, they give comments, they give suggestions, pero hindi nila alam talaga kung anong nangyari. It's fatal, right? It's fatal. Talaga, promise. Hindi siya maganda na nagsasalita tayo na wala tayong alam sa situation. Ang dami-dami niyan sa Facebook. Ang dami-daming mga sawsawero at sawsawera po sa mga issue ng ibang tao na hindi talaga nila alam kung ano ang nangyari. And that has a negative impact, not primarily to that person who give comment, but to the people involved in the issue. Marami na yan talaga, as in, hindi not, I know that you yourselves have witnessed on social media, even in your personal life, maraming sawsawero at sawsawera. And that is, these are the ignorant people who give comment. When I say ignorant, not on their level of intelligence, but on their level of understanding towards the issue. Doon lang sila ignorant. Okay? Hindi ko naman talaga sila ma-judge. But if they if they do not know things, if we do not know things, kumbaga, yung sabi nga ng isang tao, shut up na lang tayo, no? Pag wala tayong mabuting sasabihin or wala tayong alam sa mga bagay, it does not harm us to keep quiet. Right? So, yan. Selfishness. Ito. Pag we are selfish, of course, there is I or there is me in us. And that kind of character will always be reciprocated or will always come out in our words, in our actions. So we have to be self-reflective. Yung sabi ko nga kanina, are these suggestions in response to the situation, or is this suggestion is in response to my own experience only? Yung pag-comment mo is yung sarili mo lang. For example, ganito yung mga words ng ating selfish na response. Ay, ako nga, kinaya ko yan. Easy lang yan sa akin. Hindi naman ako nahirapan. Kaya mo rin yan. Hindi ka nahirapan, right? because you have a different circumstance. There are different factors in your experience that may not be present in his or her experience. So hindi talaga natin pwedeng sabihin na kinaya ko nga, ikaw pa. Right? So it's not really good. Yung taong makaka-receive niyan, sasabihin niya, grabe naman to. Ang gusto ko lang talaga pakinggan ako, hindi na kasi ang magiging notion niyan doon sa tao is that napakahina ko naman kasi kinaya niya, sabi niya kinaya niya, bakit di ko kinaya na ang hina ko talaga, napaka-weak ko, no? So something like that. Instead of helping, that even made the person disappointed and frustrated of him or herself. Yeah. So that's selfishness. That's only one example of being selfish. Okay. How much more yung selfishness talaga na hindi ka ayaw mo tumulong kasi hindi naman ako magbe-benefit dyan. That's being selfish. Okay? Remember, okay lang kung it's own just your private life, that would be fine. But what if it's in the organizational structure? What if it's that in the organizational sphere or situation? So hindi pwedeng hindi ka makialam. Hindi pwedeng ikaw lang. Wala, 'di ba? So pag walang unity or walang pagbaranggayan, like what I always say, that will not that will that will hinder or will slow down the organizational development. Okay? So in turn, ang mga incentives nyo, ang income, ang financial aspects ng company are also halted or less or slowed down. Indifference. Indifference is, we can say, kaya nandyan siya sa gitna and it's gray, it's a gray area. It's because we cannot really say if it's negative or positive, but it depends on the situation. Yung indifference is hindi ka makikialam because you don't know the situation. That might be good, right? You don't know the situation, kaya hindi ka makikialam kasi kung makikialam ka pa, it might lead to a worse result. Okay? At some point you are right. But again, if it concerns the organization in general, kailangan po talagang makialam tayo. Because directly or indirectly, we are involved. We are affected, right? Organization nyo yan eh. Kumpanya nyo yan. Or office nyo yan. If you're becoming indifferent, you are not, hindi ka nga nakakasama, pero hindi ka rin nakakatulong. And that's also equally bad thing for indifference. Empathy and sympathy. So these sympathy and empathy are two positive actions, and later on we will be discussing more what is the difference between sympathy and empathy and what is this apathy, right? So let's go on to the next slide. All right. So I'll be asking Ma'am Geraldine to read to us why is empathy important in business.
Yes. Why is empathy important in business? Empathy builds a relationship between the customer and the employee that can enhance customer service, increase customer satisfaction, and build loyalty. Thus, empathy is important for creating a good customer experience, especially after they have gone through something negative.
Thank you po, Ma'am Geraldine. Yes, empathy is very important. Like I have already explained that a while ago. It can enhance customer service, increase customer satisfaction, and build loyalty. So concrete example for that is it if my customer tayo and that customer, let's say, is nahihirapan, we can always put ourselves into tayo naging customer or always tayong customer. Then, right? May mga times na hindi natin alam kung anong gagawin, what's the first step. And if we put ourselves into the new customer, we can better help the customer. Bakit kaya siya pabalik-balik? Bakit kaya siya going from one direction to another? Hindi niya alam kung saan siya pupunta. So, yan yung action ko when I do not know what's the first thing to do in getting inside the office. Yung iba, indifferent lang. Baka hindi niya kailangan ng tulong ko. Or yung iba, selfish lang. Bahala siya dyan. But if we have that kind of empathy, or that good level of empathy, we would be be accommodating that person, and just ask the person. It wouldn't hurt you if you ask the person kung anong kailangan niya, right? On the negative note, if my person naman na irate or yung may attitude problem, malakarin ang punta sa office kasi nga may mga dangling na mga gold siya, okay? Yung car niya pinasok niya talaga doon na naka social siya, si Madam. Pumasok si Madam. She was this irate, gusto niya na siya talaga i-prioritize kahit may mga priority numbers and so on. We cannot, and as customer service provider, we cannot go to the level of that customer. We cannot even go higher to that action of the customer. We have to always be down to earth, right? Kasi nga sasabihin natin baka si customer ay may pinagdadaanan, or baka si customer is the level of, the kanyang family background is different from us. Tayo na disiplina, baka sa kanya she grew up all by herself, and she didn't know what are the things that should be, what are respectful or something like that. Things like this, kumbaga intindihin na lang natin si customer. But there are times that we would tell ourselves, bakit? Pareho lang tayong kumakain na, pareho lang kumakain ng bigas, 'di ba? Sinasabi natin 'yan. Pareho lang tayo ng kanin na kinakain. Pareho lang nito ganyan. Pareho lang tayong nagtatrabaho, pareho lang tayong tao, or something like that. But remember, on that situation, you are the customer service provider. She is the customer, right? Hindi niya role na intindihan ka, pero role mo at responsibility mo na intindihin siya. And that might be the thing that we sometimes neglect to think of during that situation. Kaya yung iba, there are many things that we can solve that situation. We can call the help of the manager because they are more expert on that. Hindi pwedeng na we respond immediately, because the words that we are going to say, hindi na natin mababalik yan. The responses that we are going to do, i-judge niya ng ibang customers. Remember, the branding of our business or office or organization, importante. Because once that you have shown that brand, that will remain to the hearts of the people. Minsan nga, nasa social media siya yung ating response, right? Or ating words. Kaya be careful talaga tayo. All right, so next is support. Let's ask Sir Christian Kit to read to us. Why is empathy important in customer service?
Support. In customer service, empathy is the ability to have a human interaction with the customer where you would intentionally put yourself in the customer's shoes to understand their issue and find the best possible solution for your customers.
Okay, thank you, Sir Christian. Yes, that's it's a response that is deliberate. It's intentional. Sasadyain mo talaga. Customer service, it's the empathy is the ability to have a human interaction with the customer where you would intentionally put yourself in the customer's shoes to understand their issue. Like what I have said a while ago, lalapitan mo talaga si customer kahit hindi kanya tinawag. Because you are once a customer, you're always a customer, alam mo na mahirap talaga, especially pag una mong pasok sa isang office, or sometimes na maraming tao, hindi mo alam kung saan ka magsisimula. It's always good to have someone help you to go through that process. Okay, so we understand their issue, we find the best possible solution for that problem or that issue. Sa akin, I have been visiting a internet service provider company or office, no, kasi may mga problems sa internet connection. Iba talaga na binibigay nila sa atin or binibigay nila sa iyo yung best possible solution, not catering their own motives or their own intentions. May mga gusto nila talaga. Minsan o-offeran ka ng promo na hindi man necessary. Hindi man necessary. Ganito, i-ano natin yung i-upgrade na lang natin, sir, yung inyong internet. No, sir, ang problem ko po, yung sasabihin mo talaga, sir, ang problem ko po is lost connection or something like that. ganito. So we have to really understand the issue first. Not serving our own kasi sometimes basta mga promos pag maraming mag-avail ng promo, incentives din sa kanila 'yan, no? Or example din sa mga fast food chain, sasabihan ka na i-upgrade sa large yung drinks or food, hindi naman i-explain na magdadagdag ka pala ng fee. So I was also a victim of that before. So kailangan sabihin niyo muna, you have to explain first the solution if that's the best for the customer. Okay. That's just a very simple action, but it helps a lot or it matters to the customer. Kaya pag sinabi, hala, bakit mas mahal pala yung binayad ko? Then the customer would have a negative feedback. Kasi hindi na-explain sa kanya na that was not the best possible solution, right? So at the end, nahirapan si customer lalo. And that would again affect to the customer satisfaction rating or the CSAT. Okay, so here we're going to discuss thoroughly what is empathy, sympathy, apathy, pity, and emotional contagion. Okay, so I will just be reading to you each response corresponding to the emotional aspect. So empathy is let's take first the bottom one. Emotional contagion. You feel sad and now I feel sad. So yan ang emotional contagion. Sad siya, sad ka din. Sad lang. Sad tayong lahat. Congratulations. Sad festival, sadness festival. So yun lang. Yun lang ang emotional contagion. Sad siya, sad ka din, umiyak siya, umiyak ka din. Wala lang, yun lang. Yan ang emotional contagion. There's no response to the process. There's no proper dealing with the emotion and so on. So just emotional contagion. Pity. Itong emotional contagion, minsan nangyayari to, for example, may umiyak sa harapan mo because death of a loved one, umiyak ka din, pero iyakan ng lahat. Hindi naman, yung iba, bisita lang doon, nakikain lang, umiyak din siya. Kasi nag-iyakan na lahat. That's emotional contagion, for example. Pity. Things are bad for you. You seem as though you need help. So, naawa ka lang, pity or compassion. Naawa ka sa person, sa taong yon for what he has been going through. That's pity, awa. Okay? You seem as though you need help. Parang, so it's on that level yet that parang kailangan mo ng tulong. So pity, you hindi ka lang naka-feel ng sad, but you're already processing in your mind and in your heart that that person you think that person needs help. So that level. Itong apathy naman is I don't care how you feel. Napaka-harsh nitong apathy. I don't care how you feel. Basta importante happy ako. That's apathy. So it's not caring at all. Itong sympathy naman is I am sorry for your sadness. I wish to help. So if you see the pity and the sympathy, yung pity is naawa ka lang. Like for example, you see a street child or you see a beggar, naawa ka lang. Kailangan niya talaga ng tulong. Okay? But the sympathy is that deeper level of pity. Naawa ka, you're sorry for his situation, gusto mong tumulong. Gusto mong tumulong. So that's sympathy. You already have that wish to help. You already have that desire to do something. That's sympathy. But empathy is on a greater and higher level. I understand how you feel. Kumbaga, you put yourself into the shoes of that person, that beggar, that street child, the person whose loved ones died. Nilagay mo yung sarili mo, but it again takes a long process for you to fully understand his situation or his situation. At kung ikaw ang nasa sa posisyon niya, ano kaya ang gagawin mo? Right? It will not just be about words, the actions that you're going to do. Okay? I'd like to request all the participants that make sure that our microphones are muted muna at this moment. Thank you very much. Then, dapat naintindihan mo, not only the level of understanding, but your responses. Make sure that really fits to the situation. So alam naman natin, sympathy, naawa ka, you wanted to help. But empathy is more than that. Kasi minsan sa sympathy, hindi pala yun talaga ang tulong na gusto niya. Hindi pala talaga yun ang tulong na kailangan niya. Kasi sa atin sa awa, sometimes nag-aabot na tayo ng pera, nag-aabot na tayo ng pagkain or something. But empathy is more than that. When you put yourself into the place to the shoes of that beggar or to the shoes of the street child, alam natin na more than food and money, ang kailangan talaga nila is shelter, kailangan nila ng sustainable assistance from the government. So yan, you would start to do things that are suitable and response to that. Now, I know the hierarchy of emotional difference. Thank you, Sir Solito. Yes, that's it. All right. So, you see, empathy is really, kumbaga, ito na yung bato ni Darna. Ito yung pili talaga or chosen people ang ng pipili. Because why? Why are they chosen? Because they have that kind of that commitment, that level of compassion, that level of selflessness. Maraming mga values or virtues incorporated in empathy. Na kaya sabi ko kanina, not all of us can exude or can exercise this kind of trait. Sa sympathy kasi embedded yung awa natin agad-agad. Human nature yan na maaawa talaga tayo. Okay? Except na lang yung mga nasapian na talaga ng yung wala na talagang awa. Yung mga alam naman natin may mga tao na grabe na kung pumatay ng tao, wala na. Parang wala na silang emotion. No, there are exemptions to that. Pero pag sympathy is embedded in the human nature. Okay. So next is the definition of empathy. So empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what other person is experiences from within their frame of reference. That is the capacity to place oneself in another's position. So that's empathy, to actually understand how someone else is feeling. So we have already explained this one. An example of empathy is feeling the same amount of excitement as a friend when they're telling you they're getting married. Okay? Pag kinasal sila, yung parang ikaw ang ikakasal, kung namatayan sila, parang ikaw yung namatayan. That kind of level of feeling. So that's empathy. All right. What about sympathy? So Sir Joselito, I'd like to request Sir Joselito to read to us a definition of sympathy, please. Yes, sir. I think we can't hear you yet, Sir Joselito. Okay.
Sympathy is the perception of understanding of and reaction to the distress or need of another life form. In sympathy, you acknowledge the emotion of the other person, but does not mean for the emotion to reflect or manifest on you. An example of sympathy is you feel for your friend when your husband died.
Thank you po, Sir Joselito. Yes. That an example is yung napatayan yung friend mo, naawa ka. Tumulong ka, naawa ka, but that doesn't mean that you have to there's no reflection on your end na paano kaya kung ako yung namatayan, paano kaya kung kung nangyari yan sa akin. So when you start to reflect, okay, when you start to reflect on the experience of other people and try to put yourself into the situation, you are now entering from sympathy, you're now entering the level of empathy. Apathy is characterized by feelings of indifference and lack of emotion. The term is often used to describe a lack of caring or concern. But here's the thing. Yung sabi ko kanina na it can be explained by science. By science, but in mental health context, this loss of interest in different aspects of life events is often a sign of condition. Yan. Pwede pala siyang psychological condition. Pwede siyang psychological and physiological condition. Remember that part of our brain that stimulates stimulates our empathy, yun a part of the brain. If that does not work well, we could not also reach empathy no matter what we do. An example of this is not being concerned about what your score is going to be after taking a long and tiring examination. Wala kang pakialam. Wala kang pakialam sa sa mga tao sa paligid mo kahit nagkakagulo na. You don't care. There is no point in trying because I know I will fail. Yeah, there are instances that we do that, because it serves our interest. It's the more convenient option. But if it's already done in excessive ways, it's really becoming you, and it's becoming more of your actions most of the time, then there might be a problem in the condition. So the conditions that might be associated with apathy is, hello, can you hear me? Okay. The condition, can you hear me po? I think it's okay now. The condition is, please respond with yes if you can hear me now. Okay, thank you po, Sir Joselito. Yes, the condition that might be associated with apathy or not feeling any feeling is, we call that alexithymia. So alexithymia, that's a condition marked by lack of feelings, because you recognize, but it can be difficult to recognize that feeling. Kasi nga, you need to talk to an expert for that, because it will be considered how long, how often you feel that emotion, or you feel that you feel that condition, no? So yan. Or it can also be, a symptom of autism, mild autism, the struggle to identify and articulate your own emotion, yung hindi mo alam kung paanong if mafe-feel sa ganyan. But again, it has something to do with the occurrence, yung gaano siya kadami lumalabas sa experiences mo. Kung hindi naman masyado, kasi there are times that we could really hardly identify, articulate our emotions, especially if marami tayong iniisip, hindi na natin alam kung ano dapat talaga yung ma-feel or isipin natin. So again, this can only be symptoms, but you need to verify that to an expert. Okay? Sometimes apathy is lack of interest lang. Yeah, so that's right. Okay. That's now we go now to the definition of pity. Pity is the feeling of sorrow and compassion caused by the suffering and misfortunes of others. It is used to express regret about a fact that has just been stated. Always pity the people who have to work in this freezing weather. So naawa ka lang sa kanila because they work in these in cold. So that's pity. Emotional contagion is a form of social contagion that involves a spontaneous spread of emotions and related behavior. Such emotional convergence can happen from one person to another or in a larger group. Example, when someone smiles happily around others, those around them are more likely to smile and feel happy. Yeah, so emotional contagion. There are instances or circumstances that this is good. Emotional contagion is good, especially if the emotion is positive. Pag happy ka, nakaka-happy din siya sa iba. Imagine or remember, ang sarap kasama ng mga taong happy sila kasama, right? Kasi yung mga taong laging problema yung yung sinishare, or laging negativity yung ini-exercise, medyo um medyo hindi sila masarap kasama, but it's also good to be there for them. Kasi minsan kailangan ng mga taong ito ng makakausap or makakasama. So if we can tolerate, or if we can be with these people, they're your friends, be with them and help them until they can reach that positive point of view, or becoming optimistic in life. Okay, let's have this empathy versus sympathy versus pity.
Reactions to suffering. Suffering. We can't avoid it, no matter how hard we try. Between poor, homeless, and sick, suffering is all around us. We like to think we take it in stride, but how do we really react to it? If you saw an older man shivering on a curb with only a thin blanket and old clothing, you'd most likely feel bad, but you'd keep walking. We all feel the pain of seeing this older gentleman look as though he might not make the night, but seldom stop and do anything. Our reactions are what make us who we are, both individually and as a species. Naturally, mankind is sympathetic to the pain and suffering of others. Psychologist Edward Titchener translated the German word Einfühlung, meaning feeling into English in 1909, turning into the word most of us know today as empathy. However, feeling bad for somebody is not empathy, despite what most people think. The feelings we get are instead a mixture of other emotions. What's the breakdown of some of these emotions? Pity is often distress, discomfort, and overall sadness when witnessing someone else's misery. If you were to see someone yelling at their significant other, you will most likely feel sad for them and look on for a few seconds before moving on. Pity is the acknowledgement of another's pain and that you feel bad for them, but pity does not go beyond this. Like bait is another example of pity, where someone online posts a photo or video to make their viewers feel bad, and at the end says, like, repost, reblog, retweet, share if you understand X's pain and want to help. Of course, a like won't help their suffering. It's just helping the poster by giving them likes on something they posted. Sympathy is the physical display of pity and hoping that the person will be relieved of that pain or suffering. It is caring about the well-being of somebody without personally knowing the struggle. You try to understand by putting yourself in their shoes. Empathy is both caring and personally knowing the struggle the other person is going through. Remember, personally knowing is not always paired with caring, which means it is not true empathy. This is evident in psychopaths. You have to have personal experience and care in order to empathize. Compassion is either empathy or sympathy paired with a desire to relieve that person of their pain. With compassion, you actively seek a solution. You do something with your sympathy or empathy rather than just walking away. It must be noted that altruism is very different from empathy, sympathy, pity, and compassion. When someone acts altruistically, they are acting on the basis that it is the right thing to do, not because they feel bad. Altruism can be detached and emotionless, as it is not buried in personal emotions, only in doing the perceived right thing. One way that altruism can backfire is being ignorant of pain, not understanding the problem, but trying to fix it anyway. A good example of this is replacing a child's old broken toy that holds memories because you believe it is the right thing to do. However, by replacing this toy, you are tossing out all the memories they have attached to that toy. So, if you were to see that same old man shivering, what would your reaction be? Pity? Sympathy? Empathy? Would you give him another blanket out of altruism or out of compassion? Write your answers below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos about human emotion.
Okay, so later on, we're going to have more responses on relative examples, your own examples, your own experiences on these and how you responded. Did you respond with pity, sympathy, empathy, or with compassion, or with altruism? So by sinabing altruism, I just want to reiterate, altruism is you do things kasi yun ang nararapat. Not because you have emotional attachment, not because you have that compassion. Yung altruism is somehow good, but again, it can backfire, kagaya ng nasa example. Kasi sa altruism, it's only on the positive notes. It's only on what to do, ano yung dapat gawin, ano yung nararapat, ano yung dapat gawin in that situation. But there are things that altruism does not look into, like the pagpain. Like kanina sa example, yung broken toy, yun ang tinapon mo yung broken toy, or you set aside that at you exchange it with a new toy. Akala mo magiging masaya siya, but that hindi pala, kasi gusto niya talaga yung toy na yun ma-fix because that has a memory, that has a sentimental value. Pero sa altruistic point of view, wala yan. Kasi dapat siyang palitan. Yun lang ang sa altruistic. It can backfire. But more instances, I mean, most likely yung itong ating altruism, more than being being backfired or negative. Maganda naman yung altruism. But again, in that circumstances, as much as possible, kung di ba, we are always aiming for the best response. Let's be empathetic with compassion. Okay, so here, let's have activity time. Let's go. Mga keyboard warriors, labas po tayo. Let's type in the chat box the answer to these jumbled words. We know this already. Jumbled yung letters. You're going to type in the chat box what that word is. Okay, ready? Paunahan po. Empathy. Okay, sorry, sir. Sir Christian, sorry for the response. Wrong spelling is wrong. Empathy. Yes, that's a very common mistake po talaga. Even if I am a language teacher, I sometimes commit that mistake. Then empathy. So sympathy. So it's really TH. Let's take note of that. Okay, empathy. Yan. Empathy. So it's always THY, even with sympathy. What about this next word? Isip. Negligence. So Christian got it right first. Is it negligence? Let's find out. Is it negligence? Pwede pa pong humabol. Let's see. Negligence. But we have two L's. All right. So Mom Christian Amor got it right first. Intelligence. Yan. Intelligence. All right. Next. Okay, Sir Christian got it right first. Relationship. Next. Napakahirap. Ito po yung most difficult part. Ma'am Lane was very napaka-active ni Ma'am Lane. What do you call this one? Napaka-keyboard warrior po ni Ma'am Lane. Pity. Ang bilis. Next. Sino kaya? Let's see. Is that ignorance? Thank you for the try, Sir Christian. But we don't see any R or letter or E. What could that be? Sino kaya ang makakasagot ng una? Do you need clue? Ito yung, is it cognition? We don't have cognition, but we have letter A. Ito yung level of emotion. Ito yung kind of emotion na dahil umiyak sila, umiyak ka din. Uso-uso lang. Kung ano yung trend. Kung ano yung trend, yun din. Umiyak sila, umiyak ka din. Happy sila, happy ka din. You're sad, then they're sad. Ay, they're sad, then you're sad. Okay, Ma'am Christian Amor got it right. Contagion. Yan. Medyo mahirap siya na word, no? But, okay. So, we are done with this activity. We're going to have 5-minute break, water break, snack break. And after 5 minutes, we shall be back to talk about social impacts and another important topic about empathy. Okay, so we will be back at 11:21. So I'll see you again. Just don't leave the loop. Please grab a snack or water to hydrate yourself. Have a good snack time and see you again at 11:21. Thank you. Share the screen with you. I hope you have maximized the time during your water break, snack break. Nag-snack po ba tayo? I just grab a glass of water. Okay. So we'll have the social impacts. Medyo on the next slides that we're gonna have, I will make it fast kasi gusto kong habulin yung more time in sharing. Kasi later, there are 2 questions that I'd like everyone to share. So let me just read the contents of the slide deck. What is social impact? In essence, the definition of social impact means any significant or positive changes that solve or at least address social injustice and challenges. By the way, I'd like to give you a heads up of what we are going to share so that ngayon pa lang, you can think of that experience or of that top needed question. Ito po yun. What social impact do you think your society is facing right now? What social impact do you think your society is facing right now? Ano yung your society, your experiences, you as a person is facing right now? Okay, and how would you deal with these social impacts? So importante na I'll give you a heads up of what we are going to share later para this is the way we can substantiate the topic about social impact and social issues. Okay, so bibilisan ko lang. In essence, the definition of social impact means any significant or positive changes that solve or at least address social injustice and challenges. So that's social impact. Positive, it deals on positive change. Okay, offering solutions, giving options, addressing social injustices, social challenges. Pag sinabing social, it happens in the society, it happens in your environment. It's not just about you. There's what we call social self. Something is going on in you, but more we are taking here the context of social or the society. Okay, the social processes. Businesses or organizations achieve these goals through conscious and deliberate efforts or activities in their operations and administrations. So remember that business is also a society, is part of the society. Organization is composed of many people from different walks of life, different social economic statuses, different perspectives, and so on. So nasa business organization. More of our concern here are our offices and organizations because that is the part of the society where we spend most of our time at. Okay, what are the examples of social impact? This is the positive change her organization creates to address a pressing social issue. For example, what are these issues? Climate change, racial inequity, hunger, poverty, homelessness, any other problem your community is facing. Your business is part of the community. It has, in one way or another, affect how the community progresses or how community works. Might if your business has something to do with the environment or the natural problems, then nakakaroon siya ng problema talaga. So, yan. Climate change, racial inequity, hunger, poverty, homelessness, and other problems. So let's have this video.
Welcome to YMCA 360. My name's Ross, and thank you guys for joining us this week as we take a look at all of the small and big differences that we could be collectively making in our communities and indeed at the world at large. We are talking about social impact. To kick this series off, I thought it would be a great idea to first define what we mean when we say social impact. Social impact takes many different forms, but the overall effect of it is that our efforts result in the betterment of our communities. Be it our school, our neighborhood, or society at large. The goal is to improve the quality of life around us. There are loads of things that we could all be doing to make our communities a better place, and I bet you that you already have a million ideas buzzing around your head. But before we get to the individual level, I want to take a step back and just have a think about how social impact goes far beyond just the individual. Indeed, right now we see that there are many big multinational corporations out there that are including social impact mission statements as part of their brand. These efforts of these big companies have a tremendous impact because of their financial power. But here's what I want you all to remember at home. As a consumer, you can influence those mission statements. Those companies are relying on all of us to buy their products and use their services. In this way, we choose with our wallets which companies are going to be successful based on some of those shared values. Companies that have social impact agendas are more motivated than ever in an increasingly socially conscious and consumer-savvy society. Whether their efforts are motivated purely by the good PR they can generate or they are genuinely behind those causes that they support, one thing is for certain, that you as a consumer, choosing and supporting companies who align with your social values, you will be having every bit as much social impact as the company themselves. Wow. And who would have thought that just by thinking about where we shop and what services we use, we could personally be having such a social impact. We could all be making a big difference just being selective about where we spend our money. Now listen, I'm not going to tell you where to shop or how to spend your money. Sometimes what we do is limited by our geographical location or how much money we have to spend. And that's okay, because this is just one of the many different ways that you could be having a social impact. We'll talk about other ways in future episodes. But for now, if you are able, I'd like you to do some investigating of your own. Start by taking a look at the shops that you're already using. Do they have a charitable arm of their organization that's already making a big difference in the world? How are they using their profits? You can start making a bigger difference in terms of your social impact today just by being more selective about which companies you choose to support with your money. Let us know, based upon what you learn, which companies and brands you feel people should be supporting using the hashtag #WhySocialImpact. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing all of the things that you learned about the companies that are making a big difference in the world. Check back with us next week to find out more ways that you could be a difference maker. And don't forget, make it a great day.
Okay, thank you. So that video was open-minding, right? I mean, that's a wake-up call. I think this has given us a realization, and we tend to reflect that even these companies have an impact, or these companies have effect to us. Remember that these companies rely on us too. So we also have a huge impact to these companies, to why these companies are existing. Sometimes nagkakaproblema tayo because these companies are causing environmental problems. And we just complain. We keep on complaining. Why not act on that complaint? Remember that these companies work because we are around. We are there. We avail their services. Okay. So again, the social impact are interdependent. The companies can provide the social impact. We too can provide can affect or can provide the social impact, or can be the source of social impact. We can do something. We can make a difference. All right. So yan yung pointed dito kanina ng YMCA Greater Houston. And we'll have more of these social issues that we address. What are these social issues? So a social issue is a problem that affects many people within a society. By the way, I'd like to reiterate yung sabi niya kanina. We have to look into, we have to really be selective of the services or the products that we call this one, we patronize, right? We make we can make backgrounds of these companies. Are these companies supporting charities? If we are for the outreach program, if we are for social solutions, addressing social problems, are these companies using the profits to greater good? Yan. So maganda kasi we invest sa mga companies that are really having these social impacts. Their objectives is to really help, not just to serve themselves, but to help the society in general. Maganda. Kaysa sa doon tayo sa mga companies that hindi na nga nakakatulong sa society, they even worsen, they even cause greater damage to the society or the community. A social issue is a problem that affects many people within a society. It is a group of common problems in present day society and ones that many people strive to solve. It is often the consequence of factors extending beyond an individual's control. So what are these social issues? These are some examples, but are not limited to government transparency. That's a social issue. Riot, conflict and wars, terrorism, corruption, political instability, religious conflicts, and refugees, because these concern people. These, in one way or another, largely or in small ways, affect people directly, indirectly. So this is social issues. As long as it involves people and the society in general, that is a social issue or problem. Now, all societies have problems that require urgent solutions. The term social issues and social problems are often used interchangeably. But what is social issues definition and why are they a problem? And what are social issues in the first place? So social issues are behaviors or conditions that negatively impact members of society and therefore demand a solution. There are social impacts. These are positive. There are also negative impacts, and these are social issues. What are these social issues? Domestic violence, gangsterism, police brutality, traffic fatalities, social stratification, social inequality. This is the feeling itong social inequality, inequality, yung sabi natin na yung kanta ni Bamboo, Tatsulok, yung mga mayayaman lang ang yumayaman, yung mahirap lang mas lalong humihirap. Okay? So we can really see the society is not really good for living, not conducive, because makikita na yung mga mahirap talagang naghihirap sila at yung mayayaman talagang yumayaman sila. There's a social inequality. Only those who are powerful and famous are given given the privileges, given priorities. Pag mahirap or powerless, they are the least prioritized, or the least taken care of. Okay, makikita natin yan sa mga dun pa nga lang sa pagbibigay ng mga, di ba, pagbibigay ng ayuda, mas nagbibigyan pa yung may mga trabaho, may mga kaya sa buhay, because they have the power, they have the influence, they can have the connections. Yung mga hindi mas nangangailangan, hindi sila nabibigyan. So that's social inequality. The gun control, euthanasia, safety, and security. Well, by the way, the social stratification, it refers to society's categorizations of its people into groups based on socioeconomic factors. Wealth, income, race, education, ethnicity, gender, occupation, social status, and a lot more. Derive yung power natin sa society. So yung nangyaring black versus white, and that is social stratification, that the white have more power than the black Americans, so before in their history. That's an example of social stratification. Ating racial discrimination, that is social that is an effect of social stratification, because we categorize people, we categorize races as more superior than the other. Di ba? May mga races, may mga language, may mga barriers na kanyari ito sila na region, mas ito ng mga tao mas mayaman kaysa dito ng mga tao. So that's because of social stratification. Pag nasa probinsya, low na. Pag nasa ganito, sa city ka lumaki or what, you are in a higher position, or you have the higher value as a person. So this is a result of social stratification. We categorize people based on their distinction. Euthanasia, this is mercy killing. More than being a medical debate, this is also can be a social issue. That's why in the Philippines, euthanasia or mercy killing, yung pagpatay sa pasyente, pag you let the person die, or you let the person mercy killing, pagpatay talaga, but it's more on because of mercy, because sa awa. It's illegal in the Philippines, but in some countries this is practiced. This is illegal in the Philippines because of our existing social problems or issues, socio-economic problems. Yung iba kasi, they just choose to let people die kasi wala na silang pera na ibabayad sa hospital. So more than medical debate, this is also a social problem. Yung family, they just choose kasi wala na silang pera, wala na silang magagawa. So they just resort to euthanasia, even if the person can still be able to, maybe pwede siyang in coma muna, or maano muna ng mga devices in the hospital, but because they don't have more money to support the medication, they just choose to. Remember that the family, the immediate family, has the has the call to do the euthanasia, but in the Philippines it's not. So it's still a medical debate whether to legalize this or not, but that's not the point of our topic today. Safety and security is also a social problem. So these are the 4 characteristics of social issue. The problem is negative consequences for large portions of the population. Pag sinabing social issue, hindi lang ikaw yung apektado. Pag ikaw ang apektado, that's not a social issue. If it's affecting large portion of the population, that's a social issue. If 1, 2, 3% lang ng population, it's not a social issue. Most people in the population recognize this issue as a significant problem that needs to be addressed. It's a social issue. So yan ang ito ang standards, ito yung basis para matawag isang problem na social issue. The problem goes against what the majority of citizens consider the values or principles of that society. So yung kumbaga yung problema, majority, remember we are in the democratic country, if majority of citizens consider that value or principle against to the norm, against doon sa practice na ng society, that is a social issue. For example, yun nga, yung police brutality. For some countries who exercise military power, okay, for some countries that might be okay. But for some people, majority of citizens, or that country does not exercise military power, we are in democratic power. So that's a problem. Okay, so depende siya, whatever the majority of citizens think or consider that value, if it's wrong or right. The issue can be solved through social actions, resources, or regulation. So if that issue can be solved with social action, together you can solve that. That's a social issue. That the social issue can be solved through social action, resources, or regulation. But if the problem cannot be solved by social action, that's no longer a social issue. Might be it's already a national issue. That could be an emergency issue, so something like that. Okay, resources or regulation. Next, effects of social issues in society. So social problem very adversely affect our society. One of the major effects is that our harmony disturbed, and instead in the society there is hostility and suspicion. There is hostility and suspicion. These also result in large-scale social dissatisfaction and create suffering and misery. So if we let the social issues linger in the society, if this is not addressed by the government, or if this is not addressed by people altogether, there will be hostility, and there will be, kumbaga, it will result to a negative feelings in each person. They will not have, hindi na sila makikialam kasi nga kumbaga problema, hindi nawawala ang problema sa society. There are always hunger issues, there's always climate change, walang nangyayari. What's the tendency is people would just move away, lilipat sila ng ibang lugar. Okay? Kaya yung iba talaga, they choose to go abroad kasi mahirap ang buhay sa Philippines. Okay? Ayaw nila sa Philippines, ayaw na nila sa bansa, something like that. That results to that as well. So suspicion result in large scale social dissatisfaction and create suffering and misery because the society is poor, the businesses in that kind of in that community, walang investors, walang gusto mag-invest kasi the way the profile, the economic profile of that community is very low. So suspicious, or yung mga investors, they would have a hard time, or they would have a second time considering to invest in that. Kaya mahirap talagang magnegosyo or mag-put up ng negosyo sa isang society na mahirap din. So that goes along. Now, okay, let's go now to our sharing time. Sino yung unang gustong mag-share? Ano yung social impact? Ano yung social issue rather that you experience in your society right now? Ano yung, is it racial discrimination? Is it poverty? And how do you help to address that issue? How does your company address that issue? It's also, this time is also a good opportunity to promote, right? How your company helps our society. Yes po, anyone? Sino dito yung may mga outreach program? Sino dito yung may mga charity works sa kanilang company or personally? Kayo po mismo. Anyone? Please unmute your microphone. You are very free to do so. We can make this webinar or this training meaningful with your shared experiences, with your lived experiences po. Baka may mga hindi po makatulog mamaya na hindi po makapag-share. Parang si Ma'am Lane kanina may sinusulat siya. Parang may piniprepare siya. Oh, was I right? Okay, just kidding po, Ma'am Lane. Sino po dito yung companies niyo may mga outreach programs po kayo? Sir Joselito is unmuting his microphone. Yes, sir?
Do you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very clear.
Ang pinaka-outreach program o corporate social responsibility ng company is every time we secure a demolition restoration works sa mga tenanted offices, we buy back yung mga furnitures, tables, glass
Mm.
doors, and etc. And we donate it sa Rotary, of which I am a member.
Oh.
And we also help them in how to construct the offices, let's say a school or a barangay care day center, and so on. Actually, it is almost zero cost for us because we buy this almost at cost
Mhm.
with the client owner, and we just transfer it to the people in need.
That's good to hear, sir. Which company do you represent, Sir Joselito?
E-Power Gear Solutions Incorporated.
Where are you residing right now, sir?
I am from Tondo, and our office is at
Okay, thank you. Glad to hear that, Sir Joselito. Yes, you have extended your efforts, no, to help and to give a hand to the people who were I think affected, or who were whose properties were demolished, sir, no. But you do it in a really good way, and of course, other than that, you go beyond by helping them sell their properties.
our goal in life is those who have excess in life should
Mm.
share those to those who have less in life.
Oh, thank you so much, Sir Solito. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can see, no, na that indeed you are a good leader. A while ago, you said you have to be empathetic for your members or for your subordinates who are who are not college graduates, or who are coming from a lower level of educational background or lower position. Thank you for sharing that, sir. Okay, what else? Some more? Sino po dito yung may mga similar or other experiences entering the social? Kung hindi po relative sa ating company, it's fine. Yung sa inyong lugar po, ano po kaya yung uh, existing social issue sa inyong ano? Not necessarily, we may not name the city. It's up to you po if it's fine. Kasi baka hindi din siya magiging good sa image ng the city. So we can just say, ano yun kayang, or maybe in general, sa ating society ngayon, ano po kaya yung general societal issue natin? And what needs to be addressed? At paano kaya natin siya i-deal? I don't know if you would agree with me here, but I think it's the values integration, or the exercise of values of our young ones, no? parang it has to be improved. There must be some programs that would involve our young generation, because they are the ones who are going to be the leaders of the future. Yung sabi ko nga, the GMRC, yung sinasabi ng teacher, sana ibalik ang GMRC, sana ibalik kasi the statistics show that our the criminal rate, the crime rate is, going younger and younger. The criminals involved are getting younger and younger. So may mga social issues, may mga problems um, that involve our teenagers, our young generation, and I think it has to be addressed because the they will be the captains of our society, of our community in the future. As manager, oh, thank you po, Sir Edward. Oh, Sir Edward is Hi, Sir Edward. Okay, thank you po. Would you like to unmute your microphone po, sir, as manager of PAGCOR and past president of Rotary? Text, oh, sorry, text only. Wasn't able to see that. Q1 is my social responsibilities are self-explanatory and beyond question. I, my group, and my company are always there when need arises. Sorry, sir. Okay. All right. Thank you po for all your efforts in your office. Maraming salamat po. Yes, we are very glad that most of that our businesses, that we have businesses, it's verbally affirming. It's affirming that we can it's glad to know that we have companies, we have organizations, there are really groups who contribute great social impacts to our society, especially that Philippines really need that. The Philippines need our help as individually and as an organization. How about the others? Questions or sharing would be accommodated this time. I think the social issues and social impacts were given already a while ago. So we may not be able to assess right now, no, kung saan ano kaya, kasi bawat society, bawat community, bawat province, bawat region, kanya-kanyang may kanya-kanyang problems, may kanya-kanyang existing and emerging issues, and their severity severity is also varied. Medyo siguro dito the hunger problem, the poverty issues are great to this are greater in this area than this area. Okay, especially yung mga dinadaanan ng bagyo, the calamities, yung palaging nililindol and so on, may mga volcanic eruptions. So all of these factors are being considered in social issues because there are things that are threats to the society talaga and would sooner or later become alarming. Okay, yes, salute to you, Sir Edward. Salute to everyone, because in one way or another, we contribute to social impacts. Remember, if I change, everything changes. If you change, we change ourselves for the greater good of our community. We cannot change the community as in that big. The society, our community is so big to be changed. What we can only do is our own little efforts, our own ways. And in that, collectively, if we'll inspire others and motivate others for that goal, for community development, we are social animals, sabi nga doon sa ating videos. We are social animals. And whether we like it or not, we are in an island and we cannot be alone. We cannot sail on a boat alone. We have to put everyone on the same boat because this is an organization. This is a team play. This is a community. We live together. We should live together harmoniously. And we can only live together harmoniously by each and every effort of an individual. Kasi pag may isa na manggugulo, that would result to a domino effect, no damage. So let us not we should not let that little rust to destroy everything that we have been developing, we have been improving for how many years. Minsan kasi ganun, yung isang kumpanya, yung isang organization na binuo natin, na we founded, we strengthened for a long time, pwede yang sirain ng isang anay lang, na isang kalawang lang. Whatever that kalawang is, whatever that anay is in your organization or company, we should address that, because sooner or later that would result to greater problems sa kumpanya nyo, at pwede yang lumabas sa labas ng inyong kumpanya or organization that would result to another social issue. Okay? So maraming salamat po. If there are no more questions and sharing. Okay, maraming salamat on behalf of your STCS family. Thank you very much for always patronizing our service, the training team. On behalf of the STCS family, maraming salamat. Please don't forget to follow us on our Facebook page, and you can get the material in your certificate within 24 hours after this training. So I will stop sharing. I'd like to encourage everyone to turn on your video. Sir Rosilito, maraming salamat. Ma'am Blaine, best friends na tayo. Ma'am Geraldine. Okay, maraming salamat po for always being with me in my training. Sir, Ma'am Christian Amor, can you still turn on your video po? And Ma'am Geraldine, maraming salamat. So on my mark, 3, 2, 1. Another 3, 2, 1. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Maraming salamat. Enjoy your lunch. I will enjoy my breakfast. See you around.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, pa.